And what I would request of you, sir, is to, in a minute, give your role and why your relevance to this subject. How do you fit into this subject tonight? And just in a minute's time, give us your role, and we would then move from there and go in-depth discussion tonight on the subject.
Good night to all. Good night to you, Brother Joseph, and also members who are on the Zoom platform. As Mr. Joseph indicated and introduced me, I am the Assistant Commissioner acting, responsible for administration and human resources within the Barbados Police Service. Now, my role in this regard, I want to be clear. I'm here to discuss the whole question of crime prevention and the difficulties, or I think the word that he used were the difficulties, implementation, problems in implementing crime prevention.
Challenges to implementation.
Challenges in implementation. Yes, challenges. So, I'm very passionate about the subject area, I must say, because our societies will only thrive when they are free of crime, or I should say free of crime. You don't want to have too much crime within the society, because then people don't really live, they just exist. And so you want to ensure that persons enjoy life within their communities, and therefore policing strategies must also take into account the fact that you want to have members of the community feeling safe and sure, and sure about where I want to be worried about, can I leave home? Am I safe when I go into public space? Am I safe in my home? And so those are some of the real issues that affect communities. Now, you would probably want to ask, what then is crime prevention? And crime prevention is a very multifaceted approach that aims to reduce crime and improve community safety. That is in a nutshell, and it involves a range of strategies and measures that address the root causes of crime and create environments where crime is less likely to occur. So, while some people usually praise the Barbados Police Service for being able to apprehend offenders very quickly and put them before the court, the ideal thing really would be to prevent those kind of crimes, rather than expend resources to search for people, put them before the court, because that becomes a very expensive undertaking. And as you must know that right now they're talking in Barbados, the buzzword is about backlog within the court system. So the more persons you have to arrest and put them before the court, eventually you're going to find that the sheer load, the volume of cases before the court is going to cause the system that we have, we call the criminal justice system, will become overwhelmed and will break under the sheer volume of that, under the weight of that volume of cases. And maybe that is what when we talk about backlog in Barbados, we're really talking about so much crime within the society that police cannot deal with the level of crime, and nor can the courts deal with the volume that is currently taking place. So maybe that's a good way for me, a good opening salvo. I'm sure the questions will come from myself, from Mr. Joseph and whoever else is on this Zoom platform.
Thank you so much, ACP Clark. So I want to just let everyone know that your time will come. So I hope you have your questions. And if you want to make comments, make them brief. But we'll be getting to you sometime later. But we want to dig deeper into this issue because we know that there are so many different strategies that have been canvassed and solutions canvassed. And but we in this country, as is recognized, have an implementation deficit, and we have to get that corrected. ACP Clark, I want to now start to get a little deeper into this subject, and I want to kind of put you on the spot because as a law enforcement officer, you would be familiar with the social solutions or the social factors that have been identified as being one of the factors contributing to crime. We also recognize the factor of finance in crime, but very seldom, really, do we look at the factor of the spiritual factor contributing to this menace and this disease in our society. Would you address that? Is this something that the police force, police service, has ever considered in their crime fighting or crime prevention policies?
Well, thank you, Mr. Joseph, for that very profound question. Now, we within the Barbados Police Service, we are, we were raised in this society, and for the most part, many of us were raised in churches, in Sunday schools, and we were schooled in a particular way. So that what we are seeing today within our communities, we say, well, that this thing is very, the behaviors are very foreign to our culture. And I suggest that we're not seeing really culture, but we are seeing a subculture that has grown up alongside our culture. A matter of fact, I suggest that this subculture is so strong that maybe it is dwarfing what we call our normal culture and our accepted norms. But more to the point, I would suggest that some of the behaviors that we are seeing, I think I probably remember a couple of Sundays ago, some person who addressed this issue. He said the reason why we see crime and the kind of crimes that we are seeing is because of wicked hearts. And this is really the answer that comes from the scriptures. People will do all manners of evil when their hearts are wicked. And the problem, the solution really to the problem really is addressing the heart. And of course, when I say the heart, we know what we're talking about. We are not talking about this physical thing that beats in our chest. We're talking about the seat of our affections, the things that causes us to act and get into rage and get angry and say mean things to people and do mean things to people. So maybe that is the answer that I would want to posit at this stage.
Okay. But is this something that your leadership has ever brought up at any meetings? I mean, I just want to get a sense of how our leaders in various sections of our society are dealing with it. If they're just sidelining God, sidelining the spiritual aspect for all the other aspects where you have the professionals and they do the sociologists and the psychologists and all the others. Not that we're disrespecting their role in society, but you need to look at all aspects that would help you come up with an effective answer. So as I said, I want to put you on the spot. Is this something that you've ever raised at any of your policy discussions?
Well, I guess I am the maybe I might be one of the persons who, have been leveraging that sort of discussion within the boardroom. We recognize, and I like to feel and sense the what Jehoshaphat probably echoed. He says, we don't have all the answers. He said, I don't have the answer, but my eyes are upon God. And sometimes we as leaders at all levels, political, within the police service, at every strata within the society, we must recognize that we don't have all the answers despite all the education that we might have. There is a sense that for us within the TBPS and the leadership, I think, has embraced this, that there's some things that are spiritual, and some of what we see manifested in the natural have already taken place in the spiritual. So what we are actually seeing is that the things that have taken place at the spiritual level are manifesting here on the earth. And we recognize that. So it's a spiritual, a very spiritual problem that we are also experiencing within our society, as well as other components.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you are canvassing the spiritual aspect, and I hope that and I pray that you would continue to push ahead with this, because it is the center of the evil that we see today, So I want to get an early participation from those on the platform, which would kind of compensate for the absence of the two other panelists. So I want to open the floor to get some contributions on this issue, because remember that we are looking at crime prevention, challenges to implementation. So, but within that scope, you can also, broaden your contribution as far as possible, as practical. So I want to start the ball rolling by opening the floor for contributions from those on the platform who can contribute to this discussion. I don't want to call on anybody, but I see some people here on the platform who I would really like to hear from. And
I see Sister Beverly is looking to raise a question.
Yes. Okay, Sister Beverly.
Okay, good evening, everyone. No, I have a question for his Assistant Commissioner, Clark.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the Jefferson Clark I know?
Well,
Anyway,
I'm not sure. I'm told that there are a number of Jefferson Clarks on the island. However, I
yes,
know
there
the
are.
only one that's the Assistant Commissioner acting.
Okay. I'm not sure of his rank. All right. The question I have, or well, now we always see the police as reactionary. A crime happens, you go to the scene and you start your investigations and so on. I know that in recent years that you have seen, or you have at least said, talked about trying to prevent crime and so on and so forth. To what extent does the police force work to prevent crime? Or your situation, or your force is just reactionary to things that happen?
Well, thank you for that.
Any...
Thank you for that question. And what I can tell you is that primarily the police service is about the prevention. Our motto is about preventing crime. That's the first base, and I think I alluded to that in my opening remarks, because the studies show that it is much more expensive to have to chase down criminals, to investigate and prosecute and put people before the court. So primarily, we are more concerned about preventing crime, and for that reason, our policing philosophy is about community engagement. We recognize that within a society that we right now we have, say, let's say 1,200 persons and within the organization, 1,200 serving officers, or the we really our numbers, the establishments calls for 1,500 persons, and if you're keeping yourself in the know, you would know that we are struggling to fill those 300 vacancies, and naturally, it has challenges for us to be able to deploy persons within our communities, police officers within our communities, within our towards our crime prevention trusts. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but primarily we're about crime prevention. When you see a police officer on Broad Street, when you see a police officer driving on the patrol in his vehicle, that is our crime prevention strategy. Yes, and you see police officers engaging persons and don't stop and search and all those types of things that sometimes can get people annoyed because they say that's you're stopping me from getting to where I want to go. That is all police engagement. Some of it may be robust, some may be subtle. For example, if you take programs like the juvenile liaison program, that's a crime prevention. We're about preventing youth from getting involved in crime, and so we have a number of programs. We have the King's Trust program. We have other initiatives. We had the DARE program within the schools that were engaged for persons, to ensure that person doesn't get involved in drug abuse. And I can go on with many other strategies.
That satisfies you,
Okay.
Sister Doris?
Well, to a certain extent, but I grew up with seeing the police as okay, probably reacting to or after the crime has happened, rather than the prevention. What I see perhaps is engagement. Well, I know the DARE program that they used to run in school, that was a pretty good program. But all right, I'll leave that there for the time being. I have another one to ask a little later.
Let me just give a bit of a more elucidation. You're familiar with the service that the police service offers, where they come to your home and do property marketing.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Well, that is a crime prevention strategy, because that is a crime prevention strategy. So that if in the event that your home has a home invasion, the police will be able to identify the property. So we're kind of using it. Yes, it would help us to identify the property and if you're investigating. But if a person knows that the police is involved in marking property in an area, maybe they will think hard about trying to burglarize some houses, and there are other initiatives such as target hardening, where we go into communities, we look at your security, and if your security look a little lapsed, you need proper locks, we would advise you on we would do what we call security audits, and then we advise you on your security. So all of these things that goes towards crime prevention. And I can give you much more.
Thank you so much.
Okay, but I don't know if how the others feel. But sometimes we think it is not robust enough. But you also counter that by saying that well, there are only 1,200 of you or so serving officers. So I suppose everything that has happened, you wouldn't be able to.
Yes. And the other thing, and we probably will get a chance to discuss that, we are seeing a greater level of criminality within our society. So that
Yes.
let's say
Yes.
say 20 years or maybe 30 years ago, we saw less crime. We if we had
Yeah.
10 if you had 10 murders in a year, we would think that it was too many.
Mm-hmm.
Now last year, I think
Yeah.
we cleared 50. So
Yes. Yeah.
so Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph asked about the about wicked hearts. He talked about the spiritual factor. And when you look at in our society now, very often I chair the final panel for interviews, persons who are joining the service. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you may broach the question, do you attend church? And you would find about 95% of the persons who come before that panel are unchurched. Where are their
Mm-hmm.
values? Where are their values coming from? These are things.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you about where the country is at in terms of the spiritual
Mm-hmm.
climate. And once
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual climate is not healthy, we're going to see some of
Mm-hmm.
this fallout.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
very much,
Well,
Sister
added.
Doris. Um, um,
Mm-hmm.
you have another question?
Not right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you made a very important point there, and that will give us as church people, as Christians, some food for thought. That 90% of those who come before you to join the force are unchurched. And so we have a lot of work to do as believers. And yes, any other contributions, comments, or questions? Right. Okay, so
Hi,
okay, go ahead.
hi, good night, ACP Clark, and to the members of who are following online. Question: do you, as a senior member of your organization, do you encourage involvement of community members, community leaders to bring ideas and, suggestions to situations like the crime that we're having now and where to implement? Because I find that one of the better ways or easier ways to get through to members of the community, especially those that are unfortunately involved in crime, is to have members on the ground who more or less can be trusted. Whether, if you can encourage people to come in, be trained, and then go out instead of just seeing an officer with a strike.
Okay. I didn't get your name, but thank you for
Leroy Drake. Sorry, Leroy Drake.
Leroy Drakes.
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Drakes, thank you for that very important question. Now, one of the things that and I alluded to the whole question of community engagement, and that is one of the fundamental pillars of crime prevention. We recognize that as an organization, we are just 1,200 people. We don't have all the answers, and we certainly don't have all the resources. And so we try to engage persons within the community. We have all types of relationships within the community. We would have, for example, workshop surveys, and we have things like we I don't know if you're familiar with the neighborhood watches.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we
Mm-hmm.
have. We also have business meeting, consultative meetings with business community, with the public, citizens. Town hall meetings. All these kind of initiatives, we have these just to get the ideas, to canvas ideas from within the community, so that that is one way of making sure that everybody puts some skin in the game, and then that has a multiplying effect. So if I give you a good example, only today I had a meeting with a community leader, and he's very passionate about community community engagement. So we are planning things together, you know, so that we at the end of the day we are not at cross purposes, and his resources become my resources and vice versa. So and his ideas become my ideas and vice versa. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yes, it does to a point. To a
Okay,
point.
but tell me which point that it wasn't answered, so I can further address.
Okay, fine. How serious do you, or let me say, how robust are you in getting getting the churches, getting the youth groups involved? I mean, reaching out. You the force reaching out. Vice versa, the organizations reaching to you and getting a satisfying response.
Well, Mr. Drex, I love the question, because you know, the Barbados Police Service is a very mature organization. I think this year we celebrate 190 years, and the church is also a very mature organization. And sometimes I'm very critical of the church for the very fact that, you know, just like we need as an organization to engage the community, I think the church needs to do a lot more in community engagement as well. You know, I think for example, this initiative, this Zoom discussion is good, because you know, you would probably want to get more of the community involved in the, you know, in this kind of initiative. We call within the police service, we call persons they're customers, but sometimes we will label them as, you know, criminals. Within the church, you would probably call those persons sinners. But we have to deal with these persons daily, and we must recognize that the idea is for us to reform those persons, to have them reformed, so that they can fit back within the community and make a valuable contribution. And similarly, sinners, Jesus came into the world to save sinners, and the church therefore must also have that same kind of enthusiasm and getting within communities, you know, communities that we see are perpetuating criminal activity. They need to find a way to embrace those persons as well. So yes, we are doing that as an organization, and it would be great if the church could come alongside us, you know, and going to the trenches. That is what, to me, that's why Jesus came into the world. And if the church is not, you know, engaged in that kind of robust engagement, then maybe you know, we can have some conversation and see how we can work together.
Thank you so much. You're happy with that, Leroy?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Thanks very much.
Right. Staying on course, we'll get to you just shortly. Apple, it's just saying Apple, so they don't know who the name is. But I want you to keep in mind, ACP Clark, since we're talking about crime prevention and the challenges to implementation, you rely a lot on intelligence to prevent crime. So when this next person asks, after you finish with this person, I want you to address that. What are some of the challenges to that aspect of crime prevention? But over to you, Apple.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, all. Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Clark. Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah. Before I ask my question, I want to first offer to you and the police service our condolences on the recent passing of a number of your officers. All right, included are Mr. Innes. Now,
Thank
my
you. Thank you very
question.
much. And I
You're
received
very
that on behalf of the commissioner and members of the service.
good. Thank you. No, I don't know how long ago it was, but recently, I mean, last year or two, a minimum quantity, I don't know how small it is, of marijuana, or people have been allowed to smoke this openly. Now, can you say, rather, if there's any link between this and the upsurge in crime?
Well, thank you for that very insightful question, because it's a question that I have broached at another place, and I've asked the question if the National Council on Substance Abuse is actually carrying out any surveys to determine whether or not there's been an uptick in the greater usage of marijuana since the enunciation of that new policy, government policy, and two, whether or not we are seeing more brazen kind of crime, more sinister kind of behavior within criminal groups since the enunciation of that policy. That I would not want to, just kind of give an answer without any data. That would be, for me, on my part, it would be reckless. So it's a good question, and I myself have asked the question, but I'm awaiting an answer.
I think it is one that we really need to pay close attention to, investigate.
Yes, but generally speaking, what I can say in a general sense, not speaking to the Barbados situation, you'll find that there's a correlation between substance abuse and criminal activity. That's a general position.
I don't think we need to carry out any surveys to know that. I think that's a given. Once people are under the influence, of substances, anything could happen.
And your observation is very very accurate, I would say. But that's a general position, and as to whether or not that is what we're seeing in Barbados, we would want to have empirical evidence.
Okay, thank you, but we definitely shouldn't rule it out.
I'm not ruling it out, but I would want to be supported by data.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your question. Thank you so much, Sister Carol. We have a question in the chat. It asks, how is the police, it should be police service, ensuring police accountability while maintaining public trust? And that should actually tie into my question about intelligence, because you need that trust to get the intelligence.
Okay, so let me just hear that question again. I think I caught it for the most part, but I want to be
right. The question is, how is the police service ensuring police accountability while maintaining public trust?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. As you must know, we have the Police Complaints Authority. We have what we call the OPR. That's really a complaints body within the organization where members of the public can make complaints if there's any police misconduct. And so we look to those entities which are supposed to operate independently. Those two entities are fairly independent. The OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, they report directly to the commissioner, and persons who run afoul of the our rules and our regulations within the service, those persons usually feel the weight of the discipline, the discipline by the commissioner, and he has the prerogative to bring charges against persons and punish them for wrongdoing. And again, we have the complaints authority, which is another watchdog for that process. And if a person feels as though they've been hard done by OPR, then they can take their case to the complaints authority. So there are mechanisms there to ensure that police behavior is police conduct is always above board, and it is not, we don't become a rogue organization. Hope that answers you.
Oh, that
was online
question in the chat,
okay,
so I hope
yes.
it answers the question.
Okay.
Questioner.
So it'd be good if we could get feedback for the person who typed the question. Yes.
Yeah. I would encourage people to actually come online and identify yourself. This is a safe space, so you can do that. ACP Clark, by the way, if it's not a problem, could you put on your video if it's not an issue? I think so.
It says that my video is on, so if I'm surprised that it is.
I'm not.
Wait, let me
Can
see.
everyone see him? Because I'm not seeing him.
It's a dark screen. If it's a laptop, it could be that the little thing at the top of the laptop is covering the camera.
Camera, yeah. Or what you do that? I'm hoping that we have some more questions from the audience. So you line up your questions, and we'll be happy to engage you. All right, so ACP Clark, while you're doing that, can you address the other question with respect to the challenges to getting intelligence from members of the public? And I'm sure that police service will have sources that feed them with information to help prevent crime.
Right. So I've not been able to. I may have to go on to another device. Probably use my mobile phone to because I'm not seeing how I can. And we men don't multitask very well. So I want to concentrate on answering the questions. Okay. So one of the things that you'll find is that yes, intelligence is important for us. But we never discount information coming from within community. That's to us, that is always the best. That's the best type of intel, where some person within the community sees something and says something. And so I want to use this opportunity to say to you, those who are on this panel, you must recognize that unless the police is never going to be at every corner when things happen. We're not ubiquitous. So we depend on people, members. You live in some space, you live in some community. You're gonna know things, you're gonna see things, you're gonna hear things, and we would want for you to share that information, because that is how you're gonna make your own community safe. Yes, we have we try to use other types of modern technology, like other modern forces that you probably would see these things on television. And some of these things we don't have all, but we try to procure as many as we can within in terms of government's coffers. But yes.
Yeah. I have a question, and
Beverly, hold on, please. Let him finish.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
Right. So yes, intelligence information coming from members of the community for us is key. Sometimes there are crimes that have been committed, and obviously nobody comes forward, and you'll see in some jurisdictions they'll actually offer maybe offer some cash or something for persons to give information. And we're not that kind of community. We're not that kind of society. And we still depend on people's good nature. This is our community. This is our country. And when something goes wrong, when crime exists, people need to be punished for crime. People need to be found and held accountable for their wrongdoing. So yes, information and intel is very important for us to drive investigations.
All right, our brother Dean Squares had his hand up for a while. Dean?
Yes, please. Dean A. Squares here, following on the same intelligence question. A kind of a two-part question. First part will be, does the whole snitches get stitches and informers must dead and that kind of push from the blocks, is that of any real significance to the whole aspect of trying to get reliable information? And why I put it that way is because I know they got many sayings on the block, but some don't really carry any weight in reality. And then the second part, if it does carry weight, how can not necessarily the police force, police service per se, but how can the community members help to counter such a message that is coming out even across, apparently coming out across our young people and our youth? I hope the question was clear.
Yeah, I think I followed the question, and thank you for asking that question, because what we recognize, is that, and I alluded to this earlier, the whole subculture where people considered a person who wants to be assist the police. And this even happens within schools. Maybe something happens within the school setting, and maybe that kind of builds towards the kind of society that we see. So if something happens, a student does something wrong, and another student comes forward and tell the teacher or the head teacher, that person is considered a snitch. And obviously that person eventually will leave school and they reside within the society, and they still have that kind of mentality, which is foreign to us, because that was never the construct of our societies. We were about exposing persons who did the wrong thing. Nowadays, it is acceptable to hold people's secrets and say, well, I'm not getting involved. I would be considered a snitch, and I may think that there may be reprisals, and so I don't stand up for righteousness. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but yes, that's a real problem. That's something that will obviously undermine the effort of the police to address serious crime in this country.
Happy with that, Dean?
Yeah, that was nice for the first part. And then the second part was if there were any tips for community members to counter or, help make it easier for the police service to help, I don't want to say attack, but help counter that subculture. Anything tips for the community members now, and including the church as well?
Well, I like to use this opportunity to advertise and to promote the Crime Stoppers program. Of course, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it has one the built-in facility of being you can remain anonymous. And we also have emergency lines where you can gives you that anonymity that you can call and not be, you don't have to give your name if you want to give information before some person knowing that you were the person who gave that information to the police to help solve crime. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, please. So it sounds then like we could then help, the church members to understand that these things already exist and how to, well, not how to use them, but even the numbers to use and how to go about it. So yes, that does as well.
Let me just drill down a bit more. Once we begin to see our role within the community, even the church, because when we have a situation in our country where the fear of crime becomes such a problem within the community, you're going to find that persons within the church members are not going to be inclined to come out to your services. They would say, well, I'm not coming out because I don't want to be robbed. I'm not coming out because somebody might shoot me. So it is the duty. It is our role. It's our business to ensure that our communities remain safe. And in that connection, we need to collaborate. We need to cooperate with law enforcement, because at the end of the day, the police cannot do it. We must all put our hands to the plow, so to speak, so that we can make our communities safer. And I hope that message resonates with you.
Happy Dean?
Yeah, very good. Because I just wanted to get over the message that along with what the police service is doing, we have a responsibility as community members, including the church, to be part of this. So even that last part there that you shared really hits home. That we ain't out of it, and even so, we got not skin in the game, but we will be affected if we don't play our part. If we just sit back, we will be affected as well.
Thank you so much, Dean. And ACP Clark, this ties in well with the whistleblowing legislation. Your thoughts on that as a crime prevention tool?
Well, let me just say that it's obviously new for us. It is something that obviously runs against the grain of what Mr. Dean raised just now, the idea of people talking about snitching, and this whistleblowing mechanism, this legislation is really supposed to counter that prevailing thought pattern by members of the society. So, it works well within other jurisdictions. And I'm hoping that we can, the version that we are going to adopt is going to be as meaningful as it works in other jurisdictions.
And how would that, assist the police? I mean, it might seem like an obvious question, but to what extent would that help the police in its prevention measures?
Well, there are a lot of things that happen within society, things that exist, offenses that are not necessarily reported. Sometimes people are, they're afraid to come forward. So whistleblowing legislation then gives persons a platform, a vehicle for bring that information to the fore, because information and sharing with the police is this beginning of prosecution, investigation, and prosecution. Without having that kind of input, a lot of crimes will be left unanswered.
Thank you so much. Sister Burris, you want to pose your question? Other question?
I had two questions. Maybe I ask this one at this time. ACP Clark, Recently myself and neighbors, we were talking about that. I know in the United States you have witness protection and all of that. Well, are there any guarantees? For example, if I know of something that has happened, is it what assurance do I have that that police will not disclose who I am and who gave the information? Because I know when you come to prosecution, you're gonna need witnesses.
You're absolutely correct, and that is really our criminal justice system is built on those fundamental principles. One, we want to ensure that the witness is not threatened. He's not, and you know, in some countries now you will see Trinidad, Jamaica, they have very aggressive witness protection programs.
Yeah.
But what you'll find and you know in the United States and you know and
Yeah.
larger jurisdictions. But
I would put it to you that we don't have it. We don't have it.
Right. So we don't have we've not come to the stage yet where our policymakers, and when I say policymakers, I'm speaking of the government. You know, as you must know, we are just we're just part of the government apparatus, and we don't create our own laws, and the policy must always come from government. So maybe when government sees that as you know something that they need to address, they will probably have to address it with a legislative fix. But what I would say to you,
another.
what I would say to you, if I may, you're gonna find that a witness protection program is not going to look the same way like what exists in other jurisdictions because of the size of our country. So you may very well see what I call an adaptation, where our persons you may have to move persons to another jurisdiction because of the whole issue of size of our community, of our country.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from the audience?
I have another one. This is not quite the same thing as witness protection because I could go on with ACP Clark about that. My question, as societies become, the statement first, as societies become more modern, they become more complex, more unchristian, more of everything else. To what extent are you training your officers to match, so to speak, the challenges that they will have going forward?
Thank you for that excellent question. One of the things that I must say to you that training is a key component of what we do as law enforcement officers. So you'll find that every year, at the end of the year, we look at our training initiatives, our training interventions. We look at what problems we see within the organization, things, you know, the way how people engage with the community, and we try to create what I call bespoke training to address some of those issues. So training, yes, is very critical. I as HR Assistant Commissioner HR, I'm responsible for overseeing the training. You know, so I must always keep my ears on the ground, my eyes, and you know, keep things on the pulse to know what is happening within the community, what is happening within the service, so that we can always be on the cutting edge and knowing what we need to address, what mischief we need to correct and address.
All right, thank you so much. We're coming around the home stretch. We have about 15 more minutes, and I want to get more of you involved in the question. This is your opportunity to shoot your questions. Anyone else from the audience? Leroy, have another question?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Amidst all of the crime prevention techniques, ideas, suggestions that we bring, we are having this major issue as our topic, part of our topic tonight is the implementation of the challenges, to get away from the challenges. And if I come up with an idea that I can be ensured that public understands what it is about and let the punishment suit the crime without all the hesitations and the different law changes. How do we go about solving that? How do we really go about getting the implementation take place, more or less?
All right. If you can you provide some clarity in your question? Are you asking about the implementation of crime prevention strategies? Or what's the question?
Okay. What are the challenges that you see at the forefront? How can we assist in, and let's say, agreeing or pushing or looking to enforce the implementations? What are the blockages that we are facing? Because there are blockages, the crimes are flying, going up in the air. We are very, very worried. Honestly, you're doing an excellent job, but then it seems like you're going nowhere because you arrest a man, you charge a man, next thing you know, he's on bail doing the same thing all over.
Okay. So thank you for asking that question. Now you must appreciate that the criminal justice system, and that's what we operate, the framework that we operate. One, we have the police, we have the courts, we have the probation, we have the prison, we have a number of other entities that are involved in that system. And of course, we as a modern society, we are tied to a lot of different conventions, and we are signed on on a lot of agencies and things that we have to agree to. So, for example, a lot of people ask why it is that you don't hang persons in Barbados anymore. And you're going to find that that's because of the different conventions that we've signed on to, different things that we as an organization have committed to. So we operate what we call the rule of law, so that we, years ago in old societies, a person commit a crime, and you would bring him in the public square, hang him up, string him, and flog him. But we've moved away a long way from that, and so there's some things that we have to give a person a fair hearing. We have lawyers that represent persons, and once a lawyer represents the person, it is their duty to give that person the best representation. And sometimes that best representation may defeat the effort of the prosecution to have that person punished for their wrongdoing. It may be that some rule, some law was offended by maybe the police, and something went wrong. For example, let me give you an example. The law says, the Constitution says that a person after they're charged must be given a speedy trial. And some cases within before the Caribbean Caribbean Court
of Justice.
Court of Appeal.
Court of Justice.
They've said that within
Court of Justice.
Court of Justice, yes. Within 2 years, that person should be given a trial. Now, the problem in Barbados, for example, we have persons who've been charged and years have passed and they've not been even be put before the court. Well, at least tried. And in some instances, those persons are on remand. Now, so what's happening now? And I must tell you that some lawyers they're going before the court and they're claiming that the person's constitutional rights have been infringed, and in some cases they're actually claiming for money. So you can see, and I alluded to this at the beginning. The sheer rate of criminality within the society is too much for the system that was constructed. The system was constructed to say let's say 100 cases. Now we have 6,000 cases a year, criminal cases before in Barbados, and our criminal justice system will never be able to keep pace with these cases. And so you see some of the outcomes that we have in Barbados sometimes don't always sit well with the society. And but that's the criminal justice system, and that's the rule of law at work.
Thank you so much for asking the question. So ACP, I want to pivot on that question because I know that the police service, members of the police service, are not happy with the fact that they work so hard in charging someone, but then the sentencing seems to be inconsistent. And also the penalties, because if you're talking about crime prevention and the challenges to the implementation, then we have sentences and penalties that don't seem to be a deterrent in preventing. Can you address that?
Let's say, Mr. Joseph, is that our society has really changed, and so you may be surprised to know that some imprisonment for some people is not a deterrent. I will give you an example. I had a couple of years ago, we had a person in custody, and we were taking him out on to carry a search warrant at his house, and he was kind of like making himself very small in the vehicle. He didn't want anybody to see him. He was sitting in the back seat between two officers, and we were driving along Culloden Road, and he saw a young lady, and he said, "Officer, can you slow down?" And he got up and he stood up. You're very erect. He wanted the person to see that he was in the back of a police vehicle. And he went on to say, "I want that girl to see me because she like bad boys." That is the prevailing thought process among a lot of young people in our country who glorify persons who are charged, and sometimes you see it on social media. Sometimes you see people appear before the court, and people are going there and they're actually bigging them up, So that is the kind of society that we have descended to, and it's for the church. I think the church has a pivotal role. I was talking about earlier where if the church is not robust in its effort to alleviate some of the crime issues within our country, church may very well be a thing of the past. Nobody will leave home to go to something called the church. We'll have empty buildings. So when the church as an organization realize that there is a role for them to go into because if I know my scriptures well, it says go into the world. Go ye into the world and preach the gospel. And what's happening in many churches, you'll find that people are not going this thing in their pews. and that does not help. That does not help the cause of saving souls. So when men are on the block that are shooting about become saved, they themselves become like Paul. They become also ambassadors for the gospel. So we need to see how we can have the multiplier effect in helping persons to come out of a life of crime and then become proponents of the gospel.
So as we wrap up, as you give your, I don't like to say a parting shots, as you wrap up, I want you to do a number of things for me. Be more specific in terms of the question I asked you about, the response of police or the feeling of police with respect to the kind of sentencing after a lot of your hard work, and sentencings will relate to penalties as well. And also give us some solutions, if you may, to overcoming the implementation deficit with respect to crime prevention.
So let me just say that police officers, they're human beings, and usually they take on the whole idea of putting matters before the court. Somebody has committed a hideous crime. They feel that person should do time, and if that person isn't sentenced commensurate with what they consider to be the kind of crime, then they will feel as though the system is not working. The system is not working. But we must within as lawyers, when we come before a justice, when the court makes a ruling, we say, as the court pleases. That must be always our response to the court's rulings. Sometimes the justice he takes the evidence, he sees all the things, the nuance and the quality of evidence, and at the end of the day we have a jury system. Sometimes juries sometimes can be very strange. And now we have a system now where we just started where we have a judge alone system. We will see how well it will go. It is supposed to be a very it could be a better system because you don't have the factors of juries. Juries sometimes can be very impetuous. And you don't know what kind of result you will get from them, but a judge is trained, and he will apply the law according to the particular case, the facts that are presented to him. So yes, we police officers we like to feel as though we are winning. I bring a case before the court, and I want to win. I don't want to lose. I want the person to get 20 years if the law permits for that. But at the end of the day, if a person spends 20 years in prison, I'm big on reformation. I'm big on persons becoming reformed so that person can fit back into society and actually become a productive citizen within the society. If we put every person in prison, number one, they will spend the best years of their life in prison. Some of our daughters will not have spouses, or children. You will not have children. And that's how societies continue. So we have to find ways. You'll find a lot of the modern countries, their approach to criminal justice has evolved, and it is not the way how the construct that we have here within Barbados. So These are things that we need to take on board. So the whole idea, we want people to pay, to know that they've done something wrong, but we also want to have persons reformed, so that they can turn their lives around and become productive citizens and take their rightful place within the society.
Thank you so very much, ACP Clark. And I really appreciate you coming on and assisting us with this topic, crime prevention implementation challenges. So as we close, I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening here in Barbados and outside of Barbados. Thank you for joining us. And I hope that next time that you will join us again for another Man Talk. But before we go, I want to call our senior pastor, Chrissy Jones, to wrap up for us.
All right, good night, everyone. Thank you, Brother Emmanuel, and thank you, ACP Clark. This has been a very informative discussion, and we do apologize for the absence of our other two panelists. We're not too certain why they couldn't be online, but ACP Clark, you've done a fantastic job giving us insights into how the Barbados Police Service operates and what they're doing in terms of trying to wrest crime to the ground. On my way home this evening, I heard, or was it this morning? Probably this evening, I heard the Attorney General talking about legislation or a paper going to being prepared for the recruitment of additional police officers from around the region, if possible. That's a very interesting step, and it shows how much we need the full complement of police officers. And obviously, the government is trying to do what it can do to buttress the ranks of police officers. So hopefully, we'll get some added officers soon so that especially the community engagement aspect of crime fighting, I think all of us would agree that once that community engagement is beefed up, it is likely that the results of that is going to be better than what we are seeing now. So thank you, sir. And I pray that the Lord will continue to use you within the force to at least keep the message that we are also in a spiritual battle, keep that message alive so that we don't think that this is just physical. But as you say, it begins in the spirit and manifests itself in the physical. And we will support you all the way in ensuring that that message continues to be heard in the force and outside of the force. Thank you very much. Let's pray. We thank you, Father, for bringing us together tonight. And we thank you for speaking to us in very clear terms that as a body, as believers, you are calling us into a war, a spiritual war, that you've declared that you have won. And so we are already winners. Help each of us to do our role in engaging our youths, our people, our society, so that righteousness and truth and justice will prevail. As we've learned from ACP Clark and what we already know, that too many times in our households, people are shielding their relatives because of one reason or the other, and that lends towards an increase in crime, an increase in disrespect, an increase in lawlessness. So help us as believers to play our role in not just going into our communities, but saying something when we see something. We thank you for bringing us together tonight. And I pray that as we go one from the other, that you would continue to bless us and watch over us. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.
Thank you. ACP Clark,
amen and amen.